In this lesson, we will discuss multiplying fractions. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to answer the question, how do I multiply fractions? If we look at the first example, we have 7/8 times 2/5. Unlike adding and subtracting fractions, we do not need a common denominator when multiplying. So when multiplying fractions, you're going to multiply the numerators together. So we have numerator times numerator. And the bottom is multiplying the denominators together. So denominator times denominator. Another way of looking at this is you multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. Sometimes, before we multiply, there's a way to simplify so that we don't have to simplify after we're done multiplying. Another reason you want to simplify first is because then the numbers that you're multiplying are a little bit smaller. So if I look at this problem, I have a 7 and a 5 that are diagonal from each other. When you simplify, this is called cross-simplifying, you look at your 7 and 5 and you try to decide if they can both be divided by a number, the same number. In this case, 7 and 5 cannot both be divided by the same number. When we look at the other diagonal, the 8 and the 2, we ask ourselves again, can 8 and 2 both be divided by the same number? And the answer is yes. 2 and 8 can both be divided by 2. If I divide 8 by 2, I get 4. If I divide 2 by 2, I get 1. So now I have a 7 over 4 times a 1 over 5. And when I multiply straight across, 7 times 1 is 7, 4 times 5 is 20. My final answer is 7/20. When dealing with fractions, it's kind of difficult to check if your answer is reasonable because you have to really have a good understanding of how much a fraction is. And we'll talk about that more in class. Let's look at another multiplication example. When multiplying fractions, and you're given mixed numbers, like in this case, you have to change them into improper. So change mixed numbers to improper fractions. I'm not sure if you recall doing this, but you have a whole number and then you have a fraction. In order to change that into an improper fraction, you're going to multiply c times a and add b on top, and your denominator stays c. Okay, so for example, if I had the fraction 3 and 2/5, on the top of my improper fraction, I would multiply 5 times 3 to get 15, and then add 2 to get 17. My denominator would stay the same. Okay, so 3 and 2/5 is equivalent to 17/5. Let's take another look at the problem we have in example 2. If I have to change 2 and 1/7 to an improper fraction, 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15 over 7. If I have to change 4 and 1/5 to an improper fraction, I do 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21, and my denominator stays 5. So now this is very similar to what we had in example 1, two fractions multiplied together. We're going to try to cross-simplify if possible. So I'm going to look at the 21 and 7. Both of those numbers can be divided by 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 21 divided by 7 is 3. In the other diagonal, 15 and 5 can both be divided by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 5 divided by 5 is 1. If I rewrite this, we have 3 over 1 times 3 over 1. Multiplying straight across, I get 9 over 1, or just 9. Now this one, it's a little bit easier to check the reasonableness, because if we go back and look at the original, we've got 2 in a fraction times 4 in a fraction. Well, 2 times 4 is 8, so we know it has to be more than 8. And 9 is pretty close to that. So I think our answer is very reasonable and correct. I would now like you to try this problem on your own. So please pause the video and work it out, and then start the video when you're ready to check your answer. Okay, the first fraction is a mixed number, so hopefully you remember to change that into an improper fraction. You would do 3 times 6, which is 18, plus 2 is 20, keep the denominator of 3, and that's being multiplied by 9/10, which is not a mixed number, so we can leave it as it is. Let's look at our diagonals. 9 and 3 in the first diagonal can both be divided by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. In the other diagonal, we have a 20 and a 10, and they can both be divided by 10. 20 divided by 10 is 2. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So now I have 2 over 1 times 3 over 1, which is equal to 6 over 1, or just 6. And if I look at my original problem, we have a fraction a little bit more than 6 times 9/10, which is almost 1. So this is like saying 6 times 1, and that's pretty close. So I would say this answer is very correct and very reasonable. Thank you for watching the video. If you have questions on multiplying fractions, we can take care of those in class. Thank you.